you like stories about haunted locations? Or maybe tales of cryptids and spooky folklore from around the world? If so, why not tune in to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane, where all this and more will be discussed. New episodes drop every Sunday, with visual versions the following Friday on YouTube. So why not come join us on our Haunted Escapes?
Hi, this is Diane.
And this is Kelly of the History Goes Bump podcast.
We are in our 10th year of production for the podcast.
And we can say without reservation that no other podcast has covered as many haunted locations as we have.
We prove that history isn't boring.
It's terrifying.
Find History Goes Bump wherever you get your podcasts.
Keep it spooky.
There we go. There we go. I nailed it. I said I nailed it.
Now you can hear?
Yes.
Okay.
So stop talking shit about me.
Ghosty fam, Amy here. Welcome to The Activity Continues, a podcast where three soul friends talk about all things paranormal. Ghosts, hauntings, psychics, movies and TV shows, especially The Dead Files, and other spooky and spooky adjacent things. We also like to interview people in the paranormal community, as well as past Dead Files clients and other interesting people. Sometimes we even tell your stories. I hope you enjoy the show.
I took notes this episode, you guys. And I was telling Amy before you got on AP that I just finished watching the episode like 6:40.
I told her we kind of assumed that.
When I saw your title come through, I was like, oh, I wonder if she's watching right now.
First of all, correct.
I know you.
Yes. Yes. Did I or did I not finish it?
Hey, that's all that matters.
All that matters.
I came prepared with notes.
Anyway, we should probably get started,
We should probably get going. Just dive on in.
Okay.
All right.
Hello.
AP, you were late on that. Thanks for joining us again.
Just your sound system.
Well, Amy and I were together and you were not.
Not on my end.
Okay. Thanks for joining us again. This is our second episode in our spring break series, Ghosts Gone Wild. Amy picked the one that we're discussing today. So, Amy, why don't you tell the fans why you chose it?
Well, alrighty. Today I picked Killed by the Klan, which is in season 1, episode 7. And I didn't pick it for this reason, but I like this. It aired 11/11/11.
Okay, I do like that.
Isn't that cool?
That's really
so
neat,
November 11th, 2011. And I picked it because, well, first of all, I was looking at early ones because I really like the early ones because they're so cute and wee and
they
little
are
babies.
So adorable. I thought
know.
that today when I was watching it. I was like, Steve looks so young.
I know, they all do.
Yeah.
So cute.
Like when he was still nice.
I think he's still nice. There's just...
He just isn't nice to everybody.
Different.
Right.
Okay, well, allegedly.
That's different.
With the capital Minnesota. Interesting.
That's different.
Different. So partly because of that, partly because I seem to remember Amy saying that this was one of the episodes, Amy Allen, that is, saying that this is one of the episodes that scared her the most. After watching it again, I don't really see why.
I didn't really see that.
I think I might have
Key
mixed West one or a different one down in that area.
Well, I had in my head that it was something about the Klan. So maybe it's another one about the Klan. I'm thinking now that maybe it's that one that really was scary. The one with the Klan people in the forest. It was that lady who lived in like a van, kind of, not a van, but a trailer home or whatever, motorhome.
Yeah.
And she had her friend was a trucker and he lived there and he wasn't there all the time.
Ooh, that one was really scary.
Yes. I think it was that one.
That
That
Yes,
must have been
I
the one
remember that
scared
one.
Amy so much, but I didn't remember that one being so early. But that might have been. It might have been season 1.
That was
or
really,
season 2.
really scary. That
Yeah,
was one of
That
the
was a
very-
good one.
yeah,
I don't
it
remember the
was
name
good,
of that one either, but we
it's
did
called
cover that
Scared
one.
Megan.
It's called
What it should be called.
Scared the shit out of all of us. Yeah,
I mean,
that was a scary one.
that
But
was
anyway,
really scary.
so this was a good one, but it's not. It was the reason I picked it is not what it ended up being, but there we are.
It was still a
So-
good one.
It was a good one, yeah.
Mhm.
And it takes place in Key West, Florida, which is I picked it because of Key West, because that's a party town, as Steve will say.
But not
so-
everyone's here is having a good time, is what he said.
That was really good. The episode I just edited today, I did a Steve impression, and you guys were like, "Oh my god, that was spot on." Of course, it was not, but
It was.
I like that we all try to do Steve.
I was like, oh my God, is it Steve? No, it's Amy. That's what I said.
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
said,
Steve?
"Is Steve
Trump?
here? Does Steve get here?" Okay, so AP is going to give us the little content warning. I shouldn't say little. AP is going to give us the content
Just
warning.
the teeny
Yeah.
tiny one.
There's just a
little
couple
one.
things. I don't know if you can guess by the title
The title.
of this episode, which was what I like about the first season is they are quite literal in the
Yeah.
naming of the episodes.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
So, Killed by the Klan, surprise, we have mention of our favorite people in the white hats.
Oh,
Not
gross.
at all. If you can't understand my sarcasm, maybe you'll hear
I
my
hate
eyes
them.
roll to the back of my head.
They're disgusting.
Despicable.
Me.
No, that's a good movie.
It's so good.
I know.
I'm
Banana.
glad you caught that. I'm glad you caught that.
Anyways, yeah. So hey, AP here. Content warning: torture, beatings, hanging, the Klan. There are a few things
Racism.
of. I think that was pretty well implied by
I
the
just
Klan. But
wanted
yes.
to clarify.
The R word.
Yeah.
I wonder if they ever spill on their robes and they're like, "Dang it!"
Spaghetti. They eat spaghetti. They probably don't eat spaghetti when they're wearing their.
I don't know. They're pretty fucking stupid. They probably
That's
do.
True. That's true.
Spaghetti and lasagna all rolled into one. Spagania.
Anya. I love it.
I mean, they're basically the same thing, just different shapes of noodles.
If we have any Italian listeners, we don't anymore.
You were going to apologize, but you're just like, oh, they're already gone.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't
Yeah,
eat it.
we have some fun. I would also say you could probably play a drinking game with one of the phrases that they use about 17,000 times.
I literally
of,
wrote that in my notes. How many times are we going to say this phrase?
especially in just one section
Mhm.
around. Yep. And then there's just a sign of the times using the term prostitute instead of sex
Mhm.
worker.
Sign
And,
of the time.
so that's there's language. There's always going to be language, and I'll say
Mostly
just,
from us.
yes, and cringy language from the episode in general.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They weren't exactly
Politically
enlightened
savvy in this
back
one.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not great.
No, it wasn't.
I did say in my notes, how many times do we need to say tarred and feathered?
Mhm.
Because it's about 3,700.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. And when they said it, I know we're not really deep diving in yet. We haven't even done this overview, but when the guy said it to Steve looked. Maybe they edited it wrong. Now I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
But
I feel like in the earlier episodes, it's probably more on par
Yeah.
than it is.
There's
in
a
the
lot
later.
of scripting though in this one. You can some of the phrases they say, and you're like, okay.
yeah. But when they said it, when the guy said it to Steve looked perplexed, like he didn't know what it was. And I'm like, how do you not know what you obviously know what that is? But then
What
the guy
is-
explained what it is. So that made me think that the producers said, hey, Steve, pretend like you don't know what the fuck that is. And then the guy has to explain it.
Yep.
Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only housekeeping I have
Housekeeping.
is that we have been invited to guest on another podcast for the first time ever. I know. I'm pretty excited.
So excited.
We're so excited. We're going to record next week.
So excited.
The show is called History Goes Bump. And I want to mention that I had quite a fangirl moment when I got the message, the little invitation from the host, because I used to listen to that podcast like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And it was, I think, Megan, it was when we worked together. And I used to go roam around downtown in the Skyway system for lunch, listening to podcasts. And I listened to that one a lot. I just picture myself sitting at this one cafe I used to go to all the time, listening to them. And I loved their show. It's a really fun show. Yeah, it's really cool. So I was really excited when she reached out to me. Diane, her name is.
Oh.
And so I think it'll be super fun. And we're all 3 going to be on, and she's got a co-host too. So there's going to be 5 of us all talking over each other. I will say the only thing that I'm a little worried about is they don't swear.
I cannot swear. Oh, gosh, darn it.
Golly, gosh, darn.
Oh, shoot.
So, yeah, we
I
got
will
to
do my best.
Yeah,
oh,
we gotta be
darn.
careful.
But I can't fucking promise anything.
I know.
Okay.
I'm a little worried.
I'm offended.
By what?
I'm a little worried.
By
I mean,
that F
okay.
word. It's offensive.
I'm usually pretty good, like around parents and stuff. Like I can usually
I'm pretty good.
So just pretend like, my mom's on or something. I don't know. Anyway, excited about that. We're just going to talk about our ghost experiences. She wants to know about all of our, stuff we've seen and heard and smelled.
Like ones I had this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
segue.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I am house sitting at my sister's house, and this is the first time since Briggs passed that I did not bring, since I don't have Briggs with me. And when I stayed here in June, I brought one of my other dogs with, but just with things going on with her dogs and everything else, I just decided not to bring one to make it easier. But it hit me pretty hard on Saturday. I was like, normally he'd lay on the couch next to me, and I have pictures of him kind of stretched out, or he laid on one of the dog beds, and he always slept in the room with me. And Saturday night, I felt push downs at where my feet are. Sorry, I just moved my setup is janky, and I have a computer on top of a laundry basket.
She's not at home, so
I'm not at home.
You're at your sister's house right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I hear Mishka barking now, but I could feel down by my feet, which is where Briggs usually laid, and he would put his head over my feet. I felt like the footsteps of a dog turning around and laying down. Mind you, the door is closed. No, the dogs or the cats were in the room. And then
Could it be the dogs?
it's not the dog, Steve. And then last night I was laying on my side, and I felt pressure on my shoulder, the shoulder that was up. And Briggs used to do this thing where he would protect me, I would say, and he would climb up around me, and he'd put his paw on my shoulder, and then he'd put his head over my neck.
Okay.
And kind of like spoon next to me and do that. And I felt the pressure on my shoulder, and I felt the feeling around my neck.
Wow. Yeah.
And
He's just
I know-
saying hi.
And I'm sure there are people who are like, oh, it's muscle reflexes and that sort of stuff. But it was too constant and too consistent.
Not anybody who listens to this podcast.
Probably not. Yeah.
So that was
really nice.
That's my
Cool.
sign that he was here with me.
Yeah. Oh, what a good boy. All right. So, overview. I'll read it this time since I picked this one.
Okay.
Okie dokie, here we go. Killed by the Klan takes place in Key West, Florida. As Steve notes, it's a party town. We open with Amy stating, Steve will conduct his investigation without knowing anything that I've encountered, making it clear that she goes first. The client is Colette. She lives in a cute house with her partner, Glenn. She doesn't actually see or hear anything. She just has feelings, and she gets cold and has feelings of dread. Glenn actually sees apparitions and has had experiences the whole life. Amy sees a lot of dead people, but 2 stand out the most. There's a man who has been tortured and burned, another man in white. The man who has been burned is not easy to describe, and so she decides to have the sketch of the other man in white done instead. Steve does some digging and learns of a clash between a man who had a relationship with a woman of mixed race. And the KKK did not like this, so they went after him. And he then sought revenge. And Steve connects these two men to the ones that Amy saw, but I am really fuzzy on who's who. So I'm really interested to talk to the two of you about who those people are, and maybe may help me make it make sense, as Amy said last week.
That's an AP thing, not a Megan thing.
Oh, making something make sense?
Yes. I make it less make sense than when you started out.
Might make it more muddy, but that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Steve also uncovers a potential voodoo curse, and it is tied to a spirit that Amy sees. I think, again, I have a question about that. Amy says they have to be very, very careful, but as long as they keep the home protected and the energy clean, they'll be okay. And the tag end confused me as well. As you can tell, I was very confused at this episode. The tag confused me as well. We can go over that too. It says Colette stopped all attempts to communicate with the dead.
Yeah.
I don't recall her talking about that
I didn't either.
Time. Okay, good.
I didn't either. That's really confused me. The only time she talked about communicating with the dead, as they state, is when she's helping people cross over, and when they're not
but
cross over.
She didn't say that till the reveal.
No, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That was at the end. Okay,
so,
I'm sorry.
And then
it
ends with Glenn no longer sees the 4 apparitions wandering through the house.
Yeah.
I also don't remember him saying 4 apparitions. I remember him saying there were a bunch of people, but
yeah,
I didn't know about 4.
He said one main one. Yeah. The man with the hat.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. So there's your overview. Now we can dig in.
Discuss.
Did anybody else like at the end of that, though, that Glenn totally called Colette out?
Oh,
and I think that's what is being referred to, is that she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing.
Yeah.
And he's telling her, you need to knock this stuff off.
Mm-hmm.
You keep trying to do stuff, but you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably told her this before.
Yes.
But it felt like he was getting some justification in... I've told you, you don't see what you're doing. You don't hear what you're doing. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because she tried to blame him the whole episode.
Yes.
Yeah. He brought something back.
Oh yeah. I forgot to mention, I was going to put in the notes, Glenn is a treasure hunter.
So he was working on a salvage, so a ship salvage. And she's like, I don't know, maybe he brought something back with him because, I've been living here for a year and I don't see anything or hear anything. I just get a sense of cold.
Yeah.
And then I thought Steve was like, this isn't enough to go on.
He did say that. He said that. I can't go off of feelings alone.
Yeah.
Which I get.
I wrote down exactly what he said because I was like, Steve, come on. He said, since I can't base an investigation on cold chills and creeping feelings, I'm going to talk to Colette's partner, Glenn. And I said, translated, I don't believe the hysterical woman and I'm going to go talk to the man. Because that's what it sounded like to me.
I didn't feel like that at all. That's not what I got. No. He's like, he's first and foremost, he was a homicide detective. Right. You can't convict somebody on feelings. Joe Kenda says, you can believe somebody did it till the cows come home, but you got to have evidence that they did it.
Sure.
So that's what I got from it.
But I feel like Steve wouldn't believe evidence if I don't think that someone saying I saw if the roles had been reversed and she had been the one saying I see people walking through the house and he talked to Glenn first who said I get a creepy feeling, I think he would have believed Glenn and not had to go talk to her. He doesn't believe either one.
See, this is where I think this is where something was scripted for him to say and it wasn't thought up in the spot. Probably. It was because it was too like bomb like. Because, I would say I got more the feeling from like with Megan was like, I can't just go off gut feeling on my own and just go with that.
Yeah.
So, but I would have also struggled with Colette, to be frank.
Yeah. Well, I know. I think I felt like the client should have been Glenn because he's the one that actually sees stuff. And he's the one that actually seems to know what he's doing. And it also felt like she was getting called out. So why would she be the one that called the dead files and brought them in?
I can't.
Probably because she thought she was going to be right and that they would side with her and they would tell Glenn, you need to stop bringing this shit home.
Well, I couldn't quite figure out if he actually lived there or if he was just there a lot.
I think
I thought he lived there.
I think that's his residence, but I think he's gone a lot for his salvaging.
Yeah. That's the impression I got.
Because he gave I wasn't here for the first 6 months, and you had feelings before I even got here that something was going on. So
yeah.
See, when he said that stuff, though, I was like, dude, back off. Like, I thought he was like being super aggressive towards her.
I thought he was pretty threatening at the end. I got a like.
I got
a
I'm
bad
fed
vibe.
up. I'm fed up with you blaming me for everything when you're messing around with stuff you don't understand.
See, now that you point that out, I can see that. But when I first got it, I wrote down, I was like, I didn't like Glenn attacking Colette, and I didn't like him lecturing her.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's what
I totally
it felt
was
like.
the opposite side of that. I loved that he called her out because I think that she was.
And now I get that. Yes. Now, like what I didn't see the stuff that you saw. But now that you say that, I can see it.
I just got from his perspective, he's been dealing with some of this stuff for all of his life. He talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that he probably, so all speculation. I'm wondering if he was like, fine, call somebody in. So there was kind of like, they'll tell you I'm right.
I think they both thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I think they did.
And he's the only one who got vindicated. And she was like, you're going to see that they're going to tell you, get away. That it was you bringing stuff in. And he's like, no, you're going to see that they're telling you it was you.
One of the things that cued me in on this is that Amy said, she's not as sensitive, but he's got abilities.
Yes.
And that's where when she started going off on, and I don't understand everything about Reiki, but you do have to understand energies and that sort of stuff. And he was like, you're doing these things that you don't fully understand.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous.
That was really interesting to me because I didn't know that Reiki could be something that would let other stuff in.
I'm sure if it's done incorrectly.
Most at least where I've come across, where I've seen Reiki practitioners or Reiki masters have been mediums.
It makes sense.
And not an expert.
So maybe it was like, maybe it was like Brittany who's doing kitchen magic.
Oh boy.
And she's doing kitchen Reiki.
That Brittany, she gets brought up in every
because they also didn't really show Amy having any kind of reaction to that sort of stuff, where I think if that had been this past year or two, that Amy would have been like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, I was expecting her to get upset, but I think she was holding it together. When we saw Jenny, she told me that I should look into Reiki because I am a natural healer and that's what I should be doing. And I did actually buy a Reiki class online to take. And I watched like one of the videos and then I forgot about it. But I just came across it the other day and I'm like, I got to get back to that. And then I saw this episode and I'm like, shit, maybe I shouldn't do that. I don't want to.
Well, I know it has a lot to do with energies and it could, not an expert. I need a shirt that says not an expert.
We should all get shirts that say
not me. I'm an expert in literally
I'm not an
everything.
expert. I just act like one on my podcast.
And then, stop. I just think that all tied together. And I think that felt like a reason why they kept Amy saying, I don't think she's sensitive. Like she's like, she doesn't have any.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any of that aspect of it.
I think she wishes she did if she's helping people move on.
Yeah.
That scares
hopefully
me.
Hopefully it's helping and not doing something wannabe else. You know, I hope that it's working.
Yep.
Because it's children she was helping.
I know.
Which, yeah. Anyway, I just before we get off the topic at the reveal, the last thing that Glenn said is what I took as threatening when he said, "You have to live and let sleeping dogs lie."
Yeah.
And I took that as quit fucking telling me this is my fault and keep your nose out of what I do. Is the way I heard it. I don't know if that's what he meant, but that's what I heard.
Now that AP said what she thinks, I can see it that way. But he was pretty aggressive. But then again, if he's been saying it for a long time, then he could
I didn't see it as aggressive. I saw it as because he was, if you read his body language, he was sitting back
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't forward.
But he was
wasn't
very like
he was back here where it's like, I've been telling you this. I've been telling you this. Now just please stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got, was more of a frustration than an aggression. But that's how I observed it, and from own life situations.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I caught that at the end there too. But yeah, I just got that he was more like, please stop. Maybe she's also been like, tell me more about, this one that was haunting you and this one that was attacking you and this one. And he's like, he's been living with since he was 20, 25.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he said when there was
he was in his 20s when the one threatened him and said, pay
I'll be
attention,
back.
big boy,
Yeah.
I'll be back. And so
But didn't he talk about one when he was at his grandpa's and he was going out to the barn? Oh, that's the same one?
Yeah.
It followed him for 5 years.
5 years they
Yes.
had a fight. And then he never really talks about that. He just said
That's
he was
what
going
I
to fight
said.
for 5
But
years.
I said they didn't address the spirit that he was talking about at all. Like he just told Amy and she was like, oh, okay. And then they moved on, which again, I'm sure they talked about
they
it.
didn't.
Well, they didn't talk to a lot of things that I was like, that seemed important. But I'm curious if for him, it wasn't that point that you felt that was more of an aggressive act, was just let that one lay. Like she just said, he's not coming back. He's not going to come back for me. Let's leave it there. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a traumatic event for him in his life. And she's wanting him to relive it a lot.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
I see.
I didn't think he was talking about that.
I was getting.
Okay. That could be. Sure.
That's my drawing of a conclusion of when somebody, it was almost a defensive frustration to me of, I've told you I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I didn't think of it that way.
I didn't either. Okay. So
I want to just quick. I want to go back to the very beginning. When I started watching this, I was like, I feel like I'm watching the first 48. Did you guys ever watch that show, The First 48?
No.
Not as much as you did. I think I maybe watched one episode.
Oh, yeah. Then not as much as me.
No,
I watched like
you watched like every
episodes.
Single episode.
Yeah, I got obsessed with it when I discovered it.
Oh,
So it is very handheld, shaky cam.
Mhm.
We're in the car with Steve, shaking along, and then they show like the moon, through the car window and all that. It looked exactly like it, and I'm really tempted to look up and see if it's the same director or the same like cinematographer
Producer,
or whatever as that show, because it really felt like First 48. Also, it was on video, not film. You could tell that like kind of a more crisp, real looking stuff is usually film or video as opposed to film. The later episodes are on film, so they're a little bit more clear. Yeah,
I did find something. Oh, I was going to say I found something in the Glenn and Colette at the end, because I wrote this down because it was after I said, I don't know if Glenn and Colette make it after this, because she seems to blame him. And he says, that's where you're wrong. I wasn't even here when things first started happening. You play around with healing that may have opened the door. And then it goes into, she does hands-on healing, Reiki, helps people transition. Amy tells her she needs to be very careful and protect her home. So, and then my thought was, sounds like she doesn't actually know what she's doing and doesn't necessarily have the sensitive abilities that could also be making it worse.
Yeah.
So,
hey everyone, we want to welcome our new sponsor, Gobble. As you know, life can get pretty hectic. Between work, errands, and family time, who always has the energy to plan, shop for, and cook delicious meals every night? That's where Gobble comes in. It's a meal kit service that takes the stress and guesswork out of dinner.
I used to dread the what's for dinner question every night. Gobble has been a game changer. They deliver fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and easy to follow recipe cards right to your door.
exactly. No more last minute grocery runs or scrambling for inspiration. Plus, the recipes are incredibly diverse. From healthy options to comfort food classics, there's something for everyone.
And let's not forget that cooking together can be a fun family activity. Gobble's recipes are simple enough to involve everyone in the kitchen, even the little ones.
So if you're looking for a way to make delicious, stress-free meals that the whole family will love, head over to the link in the show notes or on our website to get your first 6 meals for $36.
Gobble.
Make dinner amazing.
We want to give a shout out to our newest affiliate partner, Just Brands. This is the company that makes the CBD and THC gummies that I have been talking about. I have purchased both the Delta 8 and the Delta 10 versions, and they're really nice. They're actually really tasty too, but I wouldn't recommend just eating a ton of them at once. I did buy them to help me sleep, and well, let's just say that one night I took one, and when I went to bed, I felt myself melting into my bed. It was lovely. For a limited time, you can get 20% off these treats when you go to justcbdstore.com or just follow the link in the show notes and then use our promo code ACTIVITY24. This offer is good until March 27th, so get your gummies now.
I think that's where I keyed in on things. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on, and maybe I just missed it, but it seemed like when they were talking about the woman of mixed race, I don't know.
Angela.
Yeah, Angela.
Angela.
Angela, what do you know about her? Not much, Steve. They kept saying she did voodoo, and I want to be like, and maybe I missed it, but it's like, did she actually do that, or was she just a woman of color who they thought cursed all these men? Like, that to me, like, stop saying that, because I personally don't know if she did. But then you have Amy who said she was like raising people from the dead.
Yeah.
I think she said she heard conversation about wanting to raise someone from the dead. But Amy, when they said that she practiced voodoo, Amy had one of her like, what faces? But then they never went into it. And so that's where it makes
me really kept hammering that home. And I'm like, I don't think she did.
I think
she wasn't from the right. I don't think, and I don't know anything about it. So I'm not trying to, if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I feel like that's more in like Louisiana, New Orleans type of area.
I think that's just because of where some settled. But I think voodoo and
it's Haitian.
Oh, and Haiti. Yeah. Haitian.
Yeah. Yep. So I think
voodoo, so yeah, I suppose it could be there.
Voodoo
could have been Haitian.
Across all over.
But like, I don't believe she was.
Too.
I believe it was. She was a woman of color who was born in the fucking 1920s or was alive in the 1920s with a fucking KKK, and they were trying to think of any reason to blame things on her.
Exactly. They tried to connect
4 deaths to her. You know what?
Although those deaths were not like out of the norm for what their jobs were.
Right.
No. And maybe it was karma because they murdered people.
Right.
Did you think about that?
Getting back to
them. I also,
and they were like, the sheriff died a horrible death. And I'm like, okay, but he kind of deserved it.
He was working on his boat and his boat fell off the blocks or whatever is what I gathered, because he was crushed under his boat.
Yeah. And had to be cut out.
I was like, how were you crushed under your boat?
Yeah, not while it was in the water, I'm sure. Right.
But
I agree. I was thinking about that as I'm watching him. Like, this sounds like a story that was blown out of proportion in that time frame. And, you know, really, it was something to hold on to. It was something to grasp to and be like, oh my God, now he died.
I will say that all of that was happening at the time. This isn't something that came out later, because I read the newspaper articles about them, and they said that way back then. They said that they believed that she had done voodoo curses on them.
Yep. Well, because you have all deaths are terrible, but you know, the horrible deaths, they all died horrible deaths. Okay, one drowned on a fishing trip. That's
happens all the time.
Not uncommon. One went missing in a hurricane. Again,
also happens all the time.
Not uncommon. One was working on a bridge using dynamite and was blown up on the bridge.
And blew up,
Hazard of the job. And then the sheriff died by being crushed by his boat and having to be cut out. I said, okay, we're going to need more on all of this. These all sounds like hazards of the job or coincidence, but because they were tied to the murder of Manuel, who is...
But was it murder because he was involved with somebody who was not his race?
But then that's the other thing too.
That was sarcasm, everybody. Just
but his name was Manuel Cabeza.
Yeah. He was Spanish. I looked him up.
So shouldn't the KKK not like him either?
I don't think they made that distinction as much back then. But in the article that they showed that Steve was holding, I paused and read it. Racism. And it said that the reason the KKK was upset with him is because he was having a relationship with a woman that they favored.
Well,
which
she was good looking.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a sex worker. So they probably were going to her.
They probably were.
And then she stopped because she started dating him and they were like, oh, I can't get my dick wet anymore.
Right.
And also, I'm sorry, but going back to the whole voodoo thing, and they're like, oh, she's chicken bones and blood and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so she was cooking.
Yeah, probably.
Like, I mean, not blood, but who doesn't make a nice stock with some chicken bones?
Bone broth.
I mean,
yeah. Although, okay, so here's another thing about Amy. Another question I had. At one point when she sees a woman with a look of anguish on her face. She feels strongly about what they're doing, but she couldn't stop it. Mm-hmm. She's trying to make something real that was not real. No idea what that means.
Yeah.
And then she says she feels like she doesn't have a voice and she can't stop it. I assume that she's talking about the tarring and feathering of her boyfriend.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then they show Amy, her eyes are closed and she whispers, "What are you plotting?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Which
I missed that.
Makes me
think
I remember that she did put a curse on them, whether or not she really was voodoo, whether or not the curse is really what killed them. I think she did. But then the Amy at one point when she's talking about this woman, she goes, this woman, the dark-haired one. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is the only woman you've talked about the whole time.
Woman, Amy.
So is there
that
another
they've
woman?
Shown.
Right, exactly. True. Is there another woman involved that Amy has talked about that was cut out of the show? Mm-hmm. And now she's distinguishing that person from, or Angela from that person, or the dark-haired person anyway.
Mm-hmm. I also was curious about the fact that we get nothing else about Angela in life. And usually when Amy connects with some of that, she gets a little bit more information. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was like, okay, they couldn't, she was trying to stop what was happening. Was that about what happened to Manuel, or is it about what happened to her?
Yeah.
Because we don't know what ended up happening.
We don't know. Right.
So
no,
that was a thought that was going through my mind of all of that. And yeah, I don't know if she truly practiced voodoo or was just like, I know that there's something, my grandma told me something when I was little that if I did something like this, I could, I think when they were talking about raise the dead, she wanted to bring Manuel back to life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It wasn't trying to bring a whole bunch of things.
Right.
And maybe it was to the point where like she cursed them, but it was just like a woman saying, I hope you all die.
Yeah.
Because they just killed her boyfriend.
Right.
So in the Salem witch trials and things, and a lot of anytime they burned a witch alive, they usually suffocated them first or strangled them so that they couldn't put a curse on them while they were burning.
I will say that's at least good that they weren't
alive while they were burning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, they were still alive. They were just unconscious.
Well, that's good.
Oh,
I mean, at least they weren't feeling it.
But that was the main thing, was so that because women can always put curses out. So I think there's a whole bunch of things that get wrapped up in.
Well, we're the worst. I mean, obviously.
I want to also mention that the tarring and feathering happened on December 23rd, and his death, Manuel's death, was on December 25th.
Oh,
Merry Christmas to him. Yeah, I found
Speaking of an
article.
agonizing death.
I know. Oh, I know.
Sheriff.
And that's not even all of it. I will tell you what I found in the paper. A white mob of 15 men burst into the jail and beat him with blackjacks. He was then dragged out of the jail.
What's a blackjack?
It's a stick.
Oh,
like a small baton or bat kind of thing.
Nightstick.
Yeah. Sorry. That's okay. And then dragged out of the jail, attached to a car, and dragged through the streets of Key West to the East Martello Tower, where he was hanged from a palm tree. The mob then riddled his body with bullets. Yep.
And they said the reason they did that is so that they couldn't implicate anyone else because they all partook.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hate everyone.
I want to mention, did anybody think that the grave looked weird when they showed Manuel's grave?
No,
I mean,
It
you're
looked
at
like it was
sea level.
photoshopped. It looked like it was a grave with a picture drawn out and pasted over the top. And
Maybe
so
it
I
was.
did a Google search and I found his grave, and it does not look like that.
Mm,
So I don't know
course.
what the hell they're playing at there, but
Drama.
I found his grave and I put the pictures in the drive. But I'll put them
Okay.
I'll put them in the right here. I'll put them like TikTok. I'll put those in too. So, though, I may want to make sure that we talk about who the two guys are. Why can
So-
I not get them
So
straight
the
in my
one
head?
is Manuel, the other is Decker.
Right. Which one's which?
William Decker
Oh.
is the one in the white
in the
linen.
photo, he was the one that they
Yep,
sketched.
He was in the white linen suit,
Okay.
and he had it wasn't so the hat. Amy described the hat improperly to the sketch artist, or she had a different idea. She thought straw hat with like the angle down.
yeah.
This was more of like a Panama style hat,
Yeah.
which is a Panama style is a straw, almost bowler type with the
Yeah, and
ribbon around it.
Yeah.
Dips down
And
on
that's
there, just-
that's what you see kind of with the curl
in the
up
picture.
in
Yeah.
the picture.
Mhm.
The actual
And that's-
picture, not the sketch.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the picture that, they drew. So that's William Decker. And Decker is the one who led the charge against Manuel
Right.
Cabeza.
I
And
got all
Manuel
that.
was the burned man. And Amy kept
And-
saying, I don't know how he's burned. He must have been somewhere else that it was burned. Well, it was his skin
His
melted
tar.
from the tar.
The tar. And she
Right.
said she couldn't accurately describe him.
Mhm.
Right. So that's why
Jesus Christ.
yeah. And so that's what I thought. But then there was this is why I got confused. Okay, I gotta find it now.
Jordan's been having a meltdown
both
for
are
like 10
angry.
minutes.
Oh no.
Both men are angry, and they're
Mhm.
both stuck in their states of denial, she said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
both of
they
them are
both-
like, I'm right.
Right, right.
So like Glenn and Colette.
Yeah. Hey. It was when Amy was saying this man, this angry white man, he doesn't really care about the consequences. He's going to do what he wants to do.
Mhm.
And I took that as she's talking about Manuel going and killing Decker. So that's why
No.
I got confused
Yep.
about which guy was which.
Yeah, no,
Manuel killed somebody. Who did Manuel kill?
He killed Decker.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
he killed Decker, but Decker led the charge against him, and so that's where, they both had their anger and they both had their own things, but Decker was probably trying to screw Angela much earlier on than Manuel,
Literally.
and got pissed
He was
off
the head of
about
the
it.
clan.
Yeah, and got pissed off that his little treasure is now somebody else's,
Mhm.
and how dare that happen? So that's more so
Because he only viewed her as a toy, something he
Yeah.
could use.
something he could take.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then I think Amy said something about how they both senses, there's one group, one is control of the gathering, some kind of gang. The head guy is dressed the same. They're all dressed the same. They're all of the same race. There's the burned man and the man in white. Both are angry. They can't talk. She talks about someone is yelling, going berserk, which then I put a
Mhm.
little note about berserkers in the Vikings.
Yep.
Do you want to say what that is? Because not everybody else is going to read your notes.
No. So berserkers, kind of that term to go like almost insane to the point you don't feel any pain or anything. So it's believed that the Viking berserkers would, before they would go into battle, would have some sort of mushroom or whatever that would cause them to basically not feel anything. So they were terrifying to go against in battle, because you got someone who's got an open gaping wound and they are still going strong.
It's a flesh wound.
They'll die.
What are you going to do? Bleed on me?
They'll literally, they will
Yeah.
die as but they won't even
Fighting.
really sense that they're going, because
Right.
they're everything is so off. So basically adrenaline just gets
Adrenaline,
so
yeah.
high and
Mhm.
everything like that. So they were in a high state going into that. So berserk, then berserker, all of those terms came about that describe those Viking warriors.
I thought it was funny. She's like, I'm seeing these guys in weird hats.
Oh, I know.
And
And then they like superimpose pictures of the KKK as if we
Mhm.
don't know what kind of fucking hats
Yeah.
they wore.
I think my favorite though was in the very beginning of the episode when they show Amy opening and she's standing there and it's like she's already open at this point, but she's like got her eyes closed and she's standing there quietly, just waiting in the middle of the room. It was like, oh, this is definitely you could tell it's the first season there.
Yep. There was something else early on that I was like, oh, yep, this is young.
Her
think
hair. I
don't
hated
know.
her hair on this episode.
It's not the cutest cut.
It's
for her.
no,
it's
season.
not
A
great
shag
for her.
cut. A shag does not look good on.
On most people.
most
It's
people.
It's hard to pull it off.
It was very hard to pull it off. There's a woman on TikTok that I follow that I love, and she has a shag haircut. And she is the cutest fucking thing on the planet.
Amy is.
I'm sorry, that hair is.
Yeah. Amy's adorable. Not
Yeah.
with that hair, girl.
Right. She's
Just
had
my
so many,
opinion. I know.
so many cute haircuts though.
So many.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the only one I don't like.
Yeah.
Every other one is
Yeah,
adorable.
there's one other one I'm just like, not my favorite, but
Yeah.
you do you.
Right. And that's just my opinion. Amy, you could shave your head off it's your hair.
Yeah.
You do what you
Shave
want.
your head off.
No, please don't shave your head off.
Please leave your head on. You can take the hair though. Okay. What else do we need to go over? Oh, the sketch. When they did the sketch, they were sitting outside. It was bright and sunny.
And I loved how she goes,
At the house.
yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's him.
They showed
Yeah,
a lot
that's him.
more
She didn't
like,
say, yes, that's what I saw.
yeah, they showed
Yes,
a lot
that
more of
is
like what they
I
were doing.
Saw.
Yeah. And they showed more of the sketch. So we had at least an idea of
Yeah.
what it was going to look like when it came out.
And also, this is just me, but did you see the fucking rock on that sketch artist's hand?
No.
Damn, it's amazing. She could hold her hand up.
I
It
saw
was
Amy's ring when they zoomed in on that at the
huge.
reveal. It was really pretty.
It was
two rings, you know,
huge.
but it was really pretty.
It was the sketch artist rock was like, blinded by the light.
Maybe there's good money in sketch
Oh.
art. I doubt it.
I saw Steve didn't make a comment on.
I
the
did say, I
picture.
wrote that down too.
On what?
I said, we don't have him leading in. Like, I don't know what you
Oh.
guys think of this. You know, the way
Yep.
he usually does. You guys
And
aren't
then,
going to like
he was like,
this.
I do have a photo of William Decker. What do you think?
Mhm.
And they were identical.
Oh, yeah.
Except for the tip of the
Yep.
brim. They were identical.
It was like
hmm
she had looked at that photo and drawn him.
Yeah. So you know what I did? I took notes of everything that Amy said to the sketch artist. What he
Oh,
looked
yeah.
like, his eyebrows, his face, his eyes, his nose, his mouth. And I put it into an AI, that the same AI that I always
Mhm.
use, AI program to draw
boy.
him for me. And they do, I did two different ones. And both of them looked a little like what you would expect, except that they were supposed to have thin eyebrows with a slight arch. And both of them were like eyebrows like this. Otherwise, and you can't go back in and say great, except fix the eyebrows. You can't. do that.
Right. I do have one other thought just at the very beginning of the episode. Did you guys notice that they scanned to a black cat sitting in the street?
I did. I was like, what is
I didn't
this?
see Kitty.
It had
I
nothing
rolled
to
my
do with it.
eyes.
Oh,
I
that's
put
funny.
I was like,
okay, drama.
it had nothing to do
There
with
was a
that
lot
at
of
all.
that stuff. There was a lot of that kind of stuff. Those like the mist and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I do think I did put down in here with Colette when felt since she moved in about a year ago that someone else is there. Not seeing or hearing things, just cold spots. Feeling someone is here. I said, low standards then?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and
what were
okay,
the
so
standards back then for?
here's one more weird thing. The reveal when Glenn is giving her the what for, and he says, let me find it because I wrote it down exactly. He's saying he wasn't even there when things started
Yeah.
happening. And he says, like that thing that greeted you at the door.
Mhm.
We didn't hear
We didn't
anything
hear
about that.
that.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
They should have cut that out if they weren't going to tell us what the
Yeah,
fuck he's
rude.
talking about. I know. And then that's when he says you play around with healing and all that stuff, and it might be where you open the door. But I don't think he meant the door. I think he meant those are two different doors.
Yes.
I
Not
think
like
when
the
he's talking about-
actual door.
Physical
Right, right.
door, but
Right,
the
right.
metaphorical door.
Yeah. But I think when he said that thing greeting you at the door, I think he meant that
The
as-
physical
as a
door.
physical
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
All
Yeah,
right.
This is a fun
Do
episode.
you think we've
Yeah, it
covered it?
was.
Yeah, that was a lot. There was a lot to do, a lot to
Mhm.
cover in this one. It wasn't terribly scary. I did not think.
I could have probably watched this in the dark.
Probably could have.
Yeah.
But I liked it. It was a good one.
Yeah, it was good. I highly recommend.
Megan's going to tell us what we're doing next week.
We will be discussing my choice for Spring Break series season 13, episode 4, called The Bone Collector.
Oh, I remember this one.
I don't think I do.
And I chose it because I really like the movie The Bone Collector.
Oh, I read the book.
With Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie.
Yep.
Not the same.
I know it's not, but I loved the movie. So
And
I'm like,
the book is really good too. I like both.
I'm scared of this episode.
I probably will. Great.
Oh.
So I'll watch it in the daylight then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you might want to do that.
Okay. So that's why I chose it. That was literally it. It had not, and I made sure that it was in a tropical, like a spring breaky area, but that was it. There's no like in depth to it. I'm like, oh, that was a good movie. I'll do that one. And now you know how my brain works.
Cool.
I literally chose the two I chose because I'm like, well, that sounds like an interesting place. And it was like the theater, which was fine. And then the next one is because it's the only one in the state that we'll get to in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Nice.
And I was dumb and chose both of mine in Florida. So I think I'm going to not do the next one I chose because it's also in Florida. So
You
I think
could have
I'm
one
going
of
to
mine.
go back. I'm going to go
I
back
gave you
and
like
look.
4.
You gave me 2 extras, but I
I
don't
was
know
an
if you saw my
overachiever.
notes in there. You were.
Mm-mm.
My notes, one of the ones that you recommended is one I do want to do, but not yet because I've been talking to the client and he's interested in coming on, but he's not ready. So I want to cover that one. Absolutely, but not yet. And I'll look at the other one. Maybe the other one we can do.
Sure.
Otherwise I'll just pick another one in a different state, but
sounds good.
But that's what we're doing next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.